welcome to the Uncharted 80s podcast. This is a podcast that's going to take you on a journey back in time to explore the hidden gems of the 1980s music scene. Join us as we dive deep into a world of what we consider to be our obscure 80s bands that often flew under the radar, but left a lasting impact on the music landscape. Get ready for some unforgotten melodies, maybe some untold stories, some musical treasures that we believe deserve the spotlight. Whether you're an 80s muso, aficionado, or just curious about those uncharted territories of the decade, you're in hopefully for an adventure like no other. I want you to rewind the cassette tapes, embark on a nostalgic voyage throughout what we're considering to be the uncharted 80s. Now, I'm here with my good buddy, Noel. My name's Martin. Noel, who I've known for over 30 years, who knows a lot about music, has been in and out of around the music scenes and been to loads and loads of gigs, as we both have. And we just felt it's time that we want to bring these bands back into the spotlight. Now, just to be clear, we do research the show from a variety of sources. But if you have any feedback on whether we need correcting or just want some additional information, that's fine. You can contact us via podcast@uncharted80s.com. We also have a Facebook group as well. And if there's any songs, we'll put those links in the show notes afterwards. So the plan is that we'll bring a couple of bands to each podcast. And today we've got a couple of bands that we'd like to, we're going to have a chat about. One that Noel knows very well and one that I've got a bit more information on as well. So Noel, have you heard of a band called Screen 3?
I have indeed. So I think they were a Norwich band.
They were a Norwich band. And that scene, that Norwich scene, I always felt was perhaps a bit underplayed back in the 80s, because there was I think there was quite a lot of bands in that scene. Farmers Boys, Screen 3, Higsons, a couple of others,
and obviously Charlie Higson then went on to be in the Far Show as well. Do you remember?
I do.
Swiss Tony was a classic, and then became a serious actor in Broadchurch. Actually, I'll go onto the Higsons now, but I thought I'd mention Charlie. Give him a shout.
Well, I think it's a great shout. I think the Higsons may be one band. I'm not familiar with all of their work, but they're a band that we can perhaps look at some point in the future. Because of course, Charlie Higson's now started writing. I think he wrote Junior Bond, and he's now written a formal James Bond book as well. That was released about a month or two ago. So yeah, he's
interesting.
So we've got some things there, but Screen 3, they didn't really have that many singles. Only had 3 or 4 singles out. But let's just cover a few factual points about who they were first, just for so we can know. But basically, the lineup they formed in 1980 consisted of a guy called Neil Dyer on guitar and vocals, Richard Kett on bass, and Brett Cooper on drums. They were then augmented by a couple of trumpet players, Peter Tijay and Jason Vautier. But that was later in 1981.
So they started off as a threesome, yeah?
They did. And interestingly enough, they actually started from a band called The Question, which I thought was sort of quite similar to another band around that era.
The Questions.
The Questions, on that Well As Respond label. The Questions. So they actually did perform only once, mind you, on the telly.
Oh, really?
1980, 7th of May.
Right.
And they then obviously they were evolving, but they went into a situation where they changed their name to the Mexican Bombers, which I thought was a rather intriguing name. I'm not sure it would work today.
Well, but it sounds like they just had a really big, really hot chili. Anyway,
yeah, exactly. One of their time, maybe.
Yeah.
But they did that, and then they morphed into Screen 3. As I say, they never made an album. And that's why.
Oh, really? Never made an album? 'Cause they were around for quite a while, weren't they?
Yeah, never made an album. Yeah, I mean they did about they're about around for about 3 or 4 years, but they just made some singles. But the first one, I guess, is the most interesting because that was on like an independent label called Romans in Britain. And I'd like to own up now that when I thought I got it in 1981, and I thought Romans in Britain was the title of the EP that it was.
I think that's the record label, isn't it?
For years, I thought it was.
Yeah.
But yes, it's the record label. Yeah. And that was New Blood and European Journey. I don't know if you've heard those two songs.
Yeah, I've heard them. I really like European Journey. I think it's a great song. In fact, I heard a version when it was the 3-piece that played it originally, and it sounded great then. And when the horn section joined, it got even better. So yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah,
I mean,
once again, I found all of their songs just fantastic. I've loved them, but I guess the one that probably made the biggest impact was after they signed for Epic. So obviously the Romans in Britain was like an independent label. They then signed for Epic Records and released this couple of singles, Hearts in Limbo, which actually is still a great song to this day. And then Come Into My Jungle, which was probably the one that I think got to the most sort of, I'm hesitant to call it airplay, but probably got a bit more profile than some of the other singles. And it had
I know about the Hearts in Limbo, because I think that's the one where they had the record producer that they didn't appreciate, shall we say, for want of a better word, didn't like. I think they recorded it in Rockfield, where Bohemian Rhapsody was recorded, actually. And the guy had done something. Was it Bad Manners?
Yeah, Bad Manners. That's right, Roger. That's his name. Actually, I heard that interview. They interviewed Screen 3 about that. And I think that maybe it was just one of those ones where the producers just didn't quite click with the, with the band. But that guy went on to do, he did, as you say, Bad Manners. He also did Selector and a number, on their two-tone label. We never follow instinct. We just don't understand a different situation. We've lost our land. And Rockfield was like one of those. There is a documentary actually of Rockfield Studios on.
Right.
On. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but it was on one of the sort of Sky channels. But for ages, it was called like Dave Edmunds' studio. I'm a big fan of Dave Edmunds, as you know.
Great.
But actually, he did a lot of his work there at Rockfield. So quite an iconic studio, I think.
It is, isn't it? I think it's a farmhouse actually near Monmouth.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they used to live there.
I think they did stuff like, I think Oasis did definitely maybe there.
Mm.
Maybe I could be wrong. Definitely.
No, I think they did.
Maybe.
Hey,
yeah.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
No, I think they. I think they did. But that Come Into My Jungle was like the next one. They also had a pretty sort of famous producer, guy called Steve Brown, and he went on to do Wham and the second Cult album.
as you unfold me, won't you bring it up, keep it up, let it down, bring it back, attack, 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 won't you come into my jungle? Come into my jungle.
I thought that they were going to break in, they were going to break into things, because my knowledge of them comes from, I saw them live. They supported The Truth, another band that we might look at some point in our obscure 80s list, but not that I think that they're obscure. But they supported The Truth at Aylesbury Friars in October 83. And I was blown away. So I sort of then started to really take notice of them. And I've sort of kept up with it ever since.
So they had the horn section at that point then, obviously, in 83.
They did.
Cool. Yeah, some of the stuff sounds quite... I don't want to use the word funky. That's a little bit too dancey, but has got a good sort of soul vibe to it, hasn't it? With the horns on it.
Well, I don't want to keep dropping names in, but we boing. What was that? A name drop. But one of the other bands that I know that we both love is TV21, and we may well feature them at some point as well. But they had the trumpet, and that sort of trumpet adding to a band, I thought was always fantastic.
Totally agreed. I think the Come Into My Jungle, again, talking about the sort of funkiness, it reminded me just a hint of Joe Boxers, actually.
You know what? The reason I thought they were going to make it is because they actually did a couple of they did 2 or 3 BBC sessions. Obviously, you've got the Peel sessions that they did, and people can find that on YouTube. And Peel seemed to love them, as a DJ. If you listen to some of the asides he makes between the songs on the session, because it's still on that recording, you could tell that he was really keen.
Well, on the first Keen set, Peel session, sorry, they played a tune which I really liked. It's one of my favourites by Screen 3 called Red Dust. They did another session as well, didn't they? I think
they did. They did a Kid Jensen session, and which, quite frankly, feels like it's like the Holy Grail. No, I can't find it anywhere. I've made contact with Neil to try and hopefully see if we can track it down. And if we do, then great. And if we can get contact, and he comes back to us, we'll try and have a chat with him, because I think he's probably got loads of stories to tell us. But yes, definitely something.
Sounds good.
The Kid Jensen session is the thing we want to track down. And then lastly, I guess they sort of fizzled out. They did come back, as a lot of bands often do. They did try and come back in, did a bit of a reunion in 1990. I missed this completely. So, and it did include Neil Dyer, but the guy that had played the trumpet, I think it was.
One of the trumpet players, Jason.
Yeah, that's it, Jason Vertier. He went on to actually play keyboards, and doesn't sound like it sort of got anywhere. But I'd love to know why not. They did play some new material. They did do a couple of demos, apparently. So once again, don't know where they are in the midst of time. But
I think it was the original 3 guys plus Jason on keyboards. But that would have been interesting if we could find that.
And then the other amazing fact that I could find is that the guy that played trumpet, Jason Vautier, that actually played with another favourite of mine, which was the Stranglers, and actually was on their live album, All Live and All of the Night. So that
interesting stuff.
But
actually, talking about the band members doing stuff afterwards, I found out.
Have you found something? Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, that after the Peel for the second Peel session, a guy played trombone joined, actually called Steve Osborne, and he then played the later gigs with them in their original format until '84, and he then went on to be a record producer and mixer, and he's done loads of stuff. And he originally partnered with Paul Oakenfold in Perfecto Records, which is a massive name.
Yeah.
He's now his own. He's done loads of stuff himself, including U2, New Order, and loads of albums like the first Star Sailor album, which I really love. He produced and mixed, for example.
All right. Okay. So Screen 3, check them out. We'll see if we can put some links to some of their songs in the show notes. But genuinely, a completely obscure band that should really see the light of day. And I would love to see them be resurrected at some point. But considering they like supported loads of big people, they supported Elvis Costello, Madness, Aztec Camera, loads of bands. Teardrop Explodes.
Yeah, Teardrop, of course.
Yeah.
So they had quite a bit of coverage, and inside to Epic, it's a real shame that that journey ended with them.
I know. They did release one last single on Epic, but like a 12-inch single, City of Souls. And then, amazingly enough, they gave away with the money that they had from Epic. Actually, they then created a song called The Visitor and gave it away at their last concert. So,
wow.
They used to do that a lot, didn't they? In the back in the day, give away stuff at gigs and things, but doesn't seem to happen these days.
No. Oh, talking of gigs, actually, one last thing that John Peel DJ'd at one of their gigs. So they had a Screen 3 gig, and it was the week after the John Peel second session in October '83, and John Peel DJ'd at the gig before they played, and Kid Jensen went to the gig as well.
Oh no, did he?
Yeah, you should have gone to that one, mate.
Oh, God, I could have got the session. All right, no worries. Thank you. So if anybody wants to see they are on Spotify now. There's two or three things, a couple of live albums. One particular great album called Live 1982 with a fantastic track called Family. I point you in that direction for sure. But you can listen to them and let us know what you think. As I say, on the either on email or on Facebook, podcast at uncharted80s.com. Noel, who have you brought to the table alongside Screen 3 for us?
The greatest band who never got to be the biggest band in the world, I think. The Faith Brothers.
Oh, that's a bit of an intro.
I thought they were fantastic. For me, they were just great. And like you were just saying, a band with a horn section on it always seemed to lift it completely, take it to a different dimension. That's exactly what happened with the Faith Brothers. They had the horn section on there as well. They were from
who were they?
So they were from Fulham in London, obviously, and they were a sort of a socialist band, really, but not socialist as in slouting slogans, but more subtle in terms of the lyrics. The main guys, the two frontmen, if you like, who got the photos taken a lot, were Billy Franks on guitar and vocals and Lee Hirons on bass. But the band itself consisted of a number of other guys. That was Steve Howlett on drums, Henry Tresize on keyboards. He was a great little keyboard player. Will Tipper on trumpet and Mark Waterman, Mark Waterman on sax. And also, actually, Mark Hirons joined in '85 for the first album onwards, but he wasn't on the original early gigs and things that I originally saw, although he had originally played in a band with Billy and Lee before the Faith Brothers. So, yeah.
How did you find them then? How did you discover them? Because they probably weren't. Once again, they weren't a band that were well known.
No, it's really interesting. The two memories that I have of kind of discovering them, the first was, it wasn't a discovery that made me go out and want to buy anything. As I read an article or review in Jamming magazine. Remember Jamming magazine? And it started as a fanzine by Tony Fletcher as a kid, and it turned into a full-fledged magazine, which is great.
What happened to all those fanzines? There was tons of them around.
There were loads, yeah. Kids used to do them on photocopies and stuff, didn't they? Sell them at gigs.
Yeah, Extraordinary Sensations was one that I remember.
Oh, was it? Yeah. I think the punk one was called Sniffing Glue. I think that was one of those punk fanzines.
Yeah.
So it turned into a full monthly magazine, and I saw a review of their self-pressed single called The Tradesman's Entrance, and it gave it a really glowing review. And at that point, I'd never heard of them. I just lodged it in the back of my mind. Oh, these sound like an interesting band to look out for. And that was that. And then sometime later, do you remember The Tube on a Friday evening?
I do, very well.
Jules Holland, is it? And
and Paulie Yates.
Paulie Yates.
Yeah.
Paulie Wilcox then. What am I on?
Yeah. That's Man About the House, mate.
That's it, yeah. See, I'm going back to my roots. The Tube played a video of their first single, Country of the Blind, and it was great. They were sort of lined up playing with red Harrington jackets on, and I think the Tube had recorded their own video for the show.
Right.
I suspect because the proper video didn't really give the band enough justice for the song that it was. Personally, that's my view anyway.
So that sounds good. And you saw them loads of times, I think, didn't you? Well, I'd say, but I don't know what definition of loads is, but you know,
I don't know, maybe 15 times or something. I don't know. But I look back at it now. I bought the first time I actually saw them live. They supported the Alarm, Birmingham Odeon. So it was the Alarm and the Faith Brothers. To me, two fantastic bands on the same bill.
What a double bill that is.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. And I saw the Faith Brothers were doing their own gigs in the Marquee in London, the old Marquee before it moved. I took myself down there. Can you believe I didn't take anyone with me? I went on my own.
That's okay.
From Northampton on a midweek train. Yeah, I know. It's just funny though, going all that way into London, watching the band, getting a train back, getting home after midnight on a school night, but on a work night really. I did that twice actually at the Marquee. So
I think there's something there, Noel, about, you know, is it acceptable to go to gigs on your own? Because I think it is, right? But it's one of those things that often you don't do. People like to have a shared experience, don't they? But maybe that's a topic. But I genuinely think there's something about it's actually all right.
I do as well, you know. I actually, just an aside here, I worked in Dublin for a while. I was on my own in Dublin. And what can I do with myself on my own? I was there for quite a long time. And there's three things I discovered I could do on my own, no problem. One was going to watch football. That's not a problem. You go to a football match, no problem.
Yeah.
One was go to the cinema. You don't need to talk to anyone anyway. And then the third is go to gigs. And all those things you can do on your own, no problem.
Would you say, so like we talked about with Screen 3, they supported a few bands. Obviously, Faith Brothers support the Alarm thing, but they must have done other bigger bands maybe around that time.
Yeah, I mean, they supported the Boomtown Rats and the Alarm, obviously, and REM as well. So it's really funny, actually, because we went to see them, a group of guys that I work with, went to see them at the REM gig in Birmingham. Again, we lived in Northampton, so it was a bit of a drive. But we watched the Faith Brothers, and we went in the bar and didn't bother watching REM. And like, oh, that song sounds familiar. This one goes out to the one I love. Yeah, I might have heard that, but didn't bother watching them. Yeah, and I was going to say, to the biggest gig that they played, and the one that I went to see them at, was a U2 gig, and they played an outdoor gig at Milton Keynes Bowl called The Longest Day.
Right.
That was basically the longest day of the year, Midsummer's Night, and it had a great lineup. It started with the Faith Brothers, and before U2 came on, there was also Spear of Destiny, Billy Bragg, the Ramones, and REM before
Whoa.
U2 came on. Yeah,
Great. What's a
the
lineup?
Fantastic. Yes, that's the biggest thing I saw them at. It was great.
And what about records? What did they have? Because obviously Screen 3 we talked about didn't have any albums. What about the Faith Brothers? Did they manage to get?
Yeah, they had a couple of albums out. The first album was called Eventide. Eventide is a Hymn for Change. It was actually officially called, and they had a later album after that called A Human Sound. The early stuff really in terms of records, The Country, the Blind, which was that video I mentioned,
yes,
was the first single, really great single, loads of horns on it, really good. They'd been signed to a sub-brand of Virgin Records called Siren Records, and there was other bands on there, including the Cutting Crew, It's Immaterial, and the big money earner, I guess, would have been T'Pol. China in my hands,
another name drop coming. It's Immaterial. I think they might be a band that we look at some point as well.
Sounds good.
Sorry
sounds good.
I have to have a klaxon that goes off every time we mention them.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they had another single called "A Stranger on Home Ground," another great song. And both of those two singles actually didn't appear on the album, which I think was a bit of a pity, because I know it's cool not to put all your singles on an album, but for anybody who just bought the album would have missed out on those two songs. I think they were very, very good.
Also, they were. Did they chart those songs or not?
I don't have any chart positions. I'm not sure if they probably went in the lower reaches.
Lower reaches, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember them being number one.
No, I do remember one of the tracks on that "Stranger on Home Ground." Fulham Court, is that?
Oh, what a song! What a song! Again, that would have been great on the album. For me, that's one of the very best songs. So they've got loads of great songs, but that was just really awesome.
And so slowly he wakes the East Council estate from his slumber. Not the monstrosity that it's meant to be, only his reputation gets worse. But at the town hall is the dumping ground of the borough. In the forgotten live together.
That first appeared, actually. They did before they were the Faith Brothers. There was a band called the Legendary Luton Kippers, and they had a self-pressed EP, Snappy,
yeah.
And but they had some fantastic 4 great songs, which are pretty much pre-Faith Brothers stuff, really.
Right.
It included Fulham Court as well. So they had actually the Fulham Court EP, and it was really, really good.
Why didn't they put those songs on those albums then?
No idea. I mean, I managed to get a German copy of the album. It did have the first 2 singles on it, but that's not sort of around everywhere. Yeah.
That's a proper fan. That is going
to
Europe to get the
sad but true. I think the French had it on as well, but yeah, sad but true. Another classic song was Easter Parade. I mean, that was an absolutely stunning song.
Wasn't there a couple of versions of Eventide? I think, didn't they do like a rocked up version of it, or because there was like a piano version, I think, and
there were 3 versions.
Something
actually.
Else. Okay.
No, there were 3 versions. Eventide came out as a single actually, and was a kind of like an acoustic with almost like a church organ background to it. Quite a good song, very good song. Don't get me quite, a brilliant song.
Yeah.
And on the back on the Country of the Blind, when that was released, on the 12-inch single on the B-side, they have an Eventide recital, which was kind of like a trumpet or like a horn playing in the background on it. So it's quite a cut down version of it.
Oh yeah, stripped back.
The one that I personally loved, stripped back, good word.
Yeah.
The one I personally loved the most was on the double single for the Country of the Blind, was the full band version of Eventide. That's probably controversial amongst Faith Brothers fans, but that was my favourite version of it.
I don't think that's controversial. It's your opinion. Yeah. So what happened after that album then? Because obviously they must have been getting a bit of momentum, I would have thought, maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean there was momentum. There's radio play, they had the videos out for it. All these bands that they supported, they should have really gone a lot further than that. That just didn't seem to happen. And
right.
I don't know why that is. I really don't know. The second album, The Human Sound, was produced by Steve Lillywhite. So, I mean, they put a bit of money into the production on that.
Wow.
The record company did. So.
And why didn't that break through then? Because was that marketing, do you think, or was that just they'd run their course? What was the?
Do you know what? I genuinely don't know. I mean, they had a great song on that called "Consider Me."
Consider me firstly a human sound. Consider me more to wonder at than pass by, more to treasure than justify. Consider me moving, easily moved. Consider me more to celebrate than decry, more to love than
and that was played on the Radio 1 quite a lot. It just never seemed to spark, just didn't spark off, didn't kick off.
Right. I mean, it does happen, as we know.
Oh, it does.
And if it did, and let's face it, Noel, if it didn't, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. So
that's true.
So
Thanks,
there you
guys.
have it. Okay. Yeah. So that was the second album. So did they finish after that, or did they keep?
Yeah, they didn't stay. They didn't stay for much longer
what?
after that. No, they didn't stay for much longer. After the band itself finished, the lead singer Billy Franks went on as a solo artist. Did a lot of good stuff, actually. Obviously, you and I have been to see him a few times, Martin.
I remember it very well. Fulham Greyhound being a particular highlight.
Yes, he had some great stuff, and he had a very loyal fan base as well. And so Billy just went on and did his own thing. He had some great stuff out, self-pressed CDs and stuff. And he wrote a book called A Far Cry from the Sunset, which is a great read, really very interesting. And he had a film called Tribute This as well, which was worth a little watch if you got a quiet couple of hours to have a look at it. A film that was made about Billy. It's a sort of it is a documentary about he was always quite frustrated. He was a great songwriter, and he always felt that his work wasn't really being widely appreciated enough, and rightly so, actually. And he had the concept of getting a sort of a bigger artist to play one of his songs as part of the stuff they do. So the film follows him, tracking down people like Bryan Adams and people like Rod Stewart and so on, various different artists, to see if they'd play one of his songs. So it's kind of an interesting little film. It's worth a watch.
Unusual concept.
Yes.
Did it get anywhere?
Well, did the film get anywhere? I don't think it went to Cannes Film Festival. The other thing about Bill was that one of his big fans actually was Prince Harry, and
sorry, say that again.
One of his big fans was Prince Harry.
Oh, right. Okay, go on.
Back in the day, and he had a few interactions with him actually, and but one of the things I read I remember reading in the newspaper at the time, the Daily whatever, Harry had been to watch Billy Franks at a gig at Shepherd's Bush Empire, and he then was spotted by paparazzi heading to a bar called the Troubadour, that where you and I used to see Billy.
I know it very well, yes.
Potentially, yeah. And of course, for a short period, the Faith Brothers got together again.
Okay. The famous reunion, or infamous, or not infamous at all?
Maybe not. No, let's be honest. Me and many others were really, missed the fact that they were gone. And they obviously felt that, and they knew that they would like a chance to, at least for a short period, bring back those great memories, those great times for us as fans, also for them as a band. So,
okay.
So yeah, but the final thing to say, which is this is a sad ending to this story, actually, is that Billy actually passed away at the age of 60 years old. So he died in 2016. Yeah, really sad. Great bloke. I like to have regarded him as a friend, to be honest, during the time that he was around. Bless him. So yeah, that's the Faith Brothers for you. Anyway, he left behind a legacy of a magic.
Okay, all right, brilliant. Well, thank you, Noel. That's really fascinating story about the Faith Brothers. And so, for us, this is our inaugural podcast. So be kind to us. We'll as we get better along the way, I'm sure. We've got a massive list of bands. We'll do another one in a few weeks' time where we'll start thinking about. So if you've got an obscure 80s band that you want to listen to, or you want us to find out about, or you want us to talk about, or even come and talk to us about it, that's also absolutely great. We'd be really happy to hear from you. But I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Cheers. A lot. Thank you.